I'm really pleased to be here in Finland, my second time, and it's a fantastic festival. I was invited by Sinikka to come here, and we first met on the internet. And it's not so unusual these days, because I met my wife on the internet too. And I think that with Sinikka, we started to exchange, and I can't remember if it was LinkedIn, Facebook, or whatever, so I can't give any advertisement to any of these companies. And then sort of I heard about the festival, and she sent me some stuff, and I sent her some things that I was doing. And we wanted to do something for a couple of years, I think. And we decided it would be nice to do a Finnish premiere of my cello concerto, and it has been played in many different places in London, New York, and sort of South America, different places in Europe, but never in Finland. I've got special affinity with Finland. I think that there's something special about the forests, and the forests are mystical, and my father always tells me I have got a mystical view of the world, and I think it's why I'm attracted by places like Finland and its people. And the first time I came during the winter, and it was -20, and it was very special. The trees look a certain way. And this year at the festival it's 20, but +20, +26, and I've been doing sort of lovely walks and sweating, and it's not the Finland that I was expecting. And when I tell my wife, look, it's been painful, I've been bitten by mosquitoes, she said, mosquitoes in Finland? I said, yes, mosquitoes in Finland. I've loved Sibelius for many years. The first time I heard Sibelius, this was when I was a child, and I was maybe 8 years old. And I'm a violinist as well, or I was trained as a violinist, and I heard this recording of David Oistrakh playing Sibelius Concerto, and from the first few notes I loved it. If it's an orchestra you've already worked with, as even you are practicing your conducting, you imagine the face of the person that you're going to conduct. But when it's not, so you prepare the concert and you see the location, but you can't picture, so it's like empty faces. And then you arrive and you start to rehearse, and you can put faces on that. And the beginning of the rehearsals is tense for everybody, I think. It's like a first date. And as first dates are exciting, but also frightening, but I like that. It's been really good. I mean, it's a fantastic place, and there's a very special atmosphere in the festival. I mean, I knew it before I came, because there are not that many surprises in life. The way that you exchanges with people, you know already how it's going to be when you arrive, and it was very friendly, and it felt good. And now, after we've rehearsed 3 days, and these are 4th days, and then we are going to do the concert tonight, and now we know each other. It's a great pleasure. When Sinikka asked me with whom I wanted to do the cello concerto, I thought about Yotam, because we've not worked together yet, and this is the first time that we worked, but we met and we wanted to work together, and Yotam played me some music and even my concerto, and we were keen to do something together, and that was an occasion, and so it's a first for everything. I cannot remember a world where I didn't want to be a musician. So I started when I was 3 years old. My parents tell me that I came to a concert. We didn't plan to go there, but we went on a walk with my parents. As we came back, and we heard the orchestra, and I stopped, and I didn't want to move from there for an hour and a half. For many years, I thought it was cute and normal, and I didn't see anything special about it. But then I had children of my own, And I know what it is to be a 3-year-old, and then I understand why my parents were surprised. And after the concert, I said to my parents I wanted to be a musician, and I wanted to play the violin. And so I started to take lessons in France when I was 3-year-old. After a couple of years, I could read orchestra scores, I could read in all clefs, I could hear in my head. And I started to compose when I was 6. Composers have always been the thing that I admire the most. And for me, music is for music's sake. And I think that composers don't compose because they like composing, if they are great composers. You compose because you want the result. You want to create beauty, and it's the beauty that is important to you. It's not expressing yourself. It's something that is outside, so there is no ego. It's just that the love of that beauty is so strong that you'll do anything to get to that beauty. In my case, it was true even when I was 6. So when I was 6, I thought I wanted to be like Beethoven. That was my goal. I think there was a bit of Bach too, but mostly Beethoven. And it was always measuring myself against that. And I say, it took many, many years that I felt like that. I wrote a lot of music when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. And then as a composer, you decide when you are going to push your opus 1. It's a decision, thinking, okay, from that piece on, I think that deserves to have an opus because it's good enough to be something that will stay. When I decided to push my opus 1, and I was 17 or 18, I decided that I was going to burn everything that I wrote before. And I mean physically burn. I gathered the papers, something like that, and matches, not to be done, but young people will always be sort of stupid, so I did that. And for the first few years after I burned my music, I knew it by memory. But it's interesting that I erased from my memory other pieces. It must be that I don't want to access it, because normally I've got a good memory. I remember very clearly when I wrote a piece for cello and piano called The Magic Mountain, and I finished writing the piece. I thought, and I was probably 29, I thought, okay, now if I die, it's okay, I've written a piece that is great, and I can die in peace, I've done, it's a bit funny. When I decide on the programmation of concerts, if I'm given the freedom as a conductor and they want one of my pieces and I can propose other pieces, I try to program masterpieces, things that I think that are the most beautiful thing that any human being has ever written. First, because I think that it's what you should be doing, but also in a sort of personal way, because I think that it's the only way to measure myself up. If I have a piece of mine played after one of these masterpieces and it feels that it stands and it's equally good, then I feel at peace with myself. People played a lot of the music of their time in previous centuries. And now, in the past, let's say in the past 50, 60 years or a bit more, we've played mainly music of the past. But I think it's partly because music of the present has not been good enough. But now we are trying to correct that, and I don't mean as from the top up and down. It's young musicians want to play things that are alive. I think this part is interesting, but I'm not very much normally for festivals that play only contemporary music, like I'm not for a festival that would play only Beethoven as a choice, like I'm not for eating a meal that has got 3 times the same dish. I think that it's good to have different things. There is also the tendency of trying to look at the past and look at pieces of 2 centuries ago and revive them even if they are not good. On this part, I disagree. If you try to revive composers that are less interesting and you think that you are doing a good thing, actually you are not, because you are taking the space from people that may be interesting from now. In any given time, I think that we can safely say that 99% of the music will be terrible, horrible, and will not survive, hopefully, and maybe 1% will be good. So our time cannot be different, but at least to discover the 1%, you need to play the 99% other, and some things will come up. There are 2 things that are entirely precise in music. You can write the rhythms that are mathematical, and basically they are 100% right, what you can write. And then you've got also the notes, and these two things are objective and you can define them completely. And then there are dynamics. Dynamics is how loud, how soft, if it gets louder, gets softer, even speed changes. And this is not really part of the composition in a big sense because there are many options. So it means that if you perform the same piece 100 times, you might do different things. But what will not differ is the architecture of the piece. So let's say that you have a phrase that goes, that the rhythm is pam, 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 pam. So if you say, and I like this apple. So, or it could be, and I like this apple. Same thing, but this is not really composing. This is as the option of the interpretation. In the places that have a lot of expression in works, even of Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms, these are the places where they don't write anything. And the only mistake is not to do anything there. And a lot of people that play them, because maybe there is not that much connection with live music now, so people don't always understand the problem, they don't do something in places that do need contrast. Mahler, he was a great conductor. He had this experience of working all the time with orchestras, and so he's very, very, very meticulous in writing what he wants. It's not only he writes, well, here I want it to slow down, but just a little bit. He writes also the thing that he doesn't want, so do not slow down here, or things like that. And he spent a long, long time doing that, and then after that, all the conductors totally ignore it. It's just bizarre. And when I look at it, and sometimes I get annoyed by people performing my music and saying, but I've written that, why can't they do it? And then I look at the poor Mahler and other composers. It's something that I don't entirely understand. The reason why I also do more conducting now is that you can leave something as a performer of showing how you want your works to be done. It gives at least an idea of the essential things, the mood, the energy of that you want in your music. So I try to record most of my pieces for orchestra, for posterity, for after I'm dead. I mean, it would be interesting to be able to hear Chopin play. But I think that if you really, really read the notes well and you feel them, it's all in the note and you don't need anything else. You don't need to know when the composer lived, if he was a man, if he was a woman, what he thought about things. Either it's in the notes, and if it's not in the notes, who cares? It should be there. And but having said that, sometimes people truly want to give justice to the composer and just don't see it. So I think that leaving an archive is an interesting thing. Vladimir Ashkenazy, I have a special relationship with him, and I've got a debt to him because he helped to open up my international career. Had I not heard Ashkenazy talk on TV, maybe I would not have approached him. He was asked about Shostakovich, and he gave a really honest answer that he didn't really understand what it was to compose because he was not able to do it himself, but he had met great composers, and he gave a few words of what he thought it was. From hearing him, I thought, okay, that man, I'm sure he's going to love my music, and what he's looking for in composers is what I'm giving, and I need to meet him. So I wrote to his agent, and I thought the agent is not going to pass on the message, and I'll have to find a plan B to try to get in touch with him. So I was already planning sort of when was his next concert that I could go backstage and ask, but then I wrote to the agent on the day after, or a couple of days after, I got an answer from the agent. I suppose that I can be thankful to Ashkenazy that probably told the agent that he wanted to be told everything. He would be very interested to meet me, but he was very, very busy, and that he could give me 5 minutes after a rehearsal in London. I came and I played it some of my music, and the 5 minutes became sort of 2 hours, and we had a really great meeting. And after that, he said that he really liked my music and he would help in any way that he could. I was not going to do a big international competition because always the great composers didn't pass But after I met Ashkenazy and he told me that he could write me a letter of I thought, okay, maybe I should sort of at least do a competition so that I will pass the first round, because he wrote me a letter saying that I was basically a great genius and that. So I thought, with that letter, I'm going to go into the second round of the competition. So I applied to 3 competitions and I didn't pass the first round with that letter. That by itself brought a smile on my face, and I understood, and I was at peace with myself. So, okay, if that doesn't work, it means that it's really the competitions are not a way. So the letters that he wrote for me didn't do anything, but what did it is that he really started to perform my work. He conducted a few of my works, and after a few years he wanted to record a CD of my works. The relationship with him was good, because it's what I was trying to express before, that for me about composing, that it's not about ego. It's for the thing itself, it's for music. I love music and I love trying to create beauty, and Ashkenazy is exactly like that. He doesn't have any ego in that sense, and he likes modesty. He doesn't like people that are boastful, and he's not boastful. One big lesson is that when we did the recording of the CD, that was, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, he was at the height of his career, sort of more than that, he was a living legend. And on the scores, each of them, I don't know, close to 100 pages, or, and every page, there was just so many annotations. I would say that it's difficult to imagine that he spent less than 100 hours to prepare, and I've met so many conductors that always say, oh, I'm very, very, very busy, that didn't prepare my works well. And Ashkenazy it was funny, the score was, actually, he did, I like that as well, because I like to do, in my scores, to put colors, because I find it's clear. And he did the same. It was very, very prepared. It's a type of moral. It's a moral standard that you put yourself on, that you say that it's not decent not to prepare to the best of your ability. And so either you do it and you do it well, or you're really too tired and you say, I'm sorry, I can't do it. But to see that the amount of work of a man of his age, where you have a bit less energy still, and it was a relationship for over a couple of decades, and I was really sad when he retired. You need a tremendous courage, I imagine, to decide to stop something that you love that much. To leave the stage in a good form, it's quite something. There was never a meeting where he wouldn't tell me stories, terrible stories about composers. Because he thought if he told me that, it would make my life easier. But the truth is that psychologically he didn't do the job, because sort of when you see that terrible things happen to even the greatest composers, you think, oh, I'm not going to escape it. It's just not, there's no way to escape. And he told me this story about Beethoven, and I think it was for the Ninth Symphony. He was not very, very well off financially, and he decided, okay, I'm going to write this symphony, not without a commission, and then I'm going to hire an orchestra, so he had to pay for the orchestra, rent the hall, and then I'm going to sell the concerts and make a lot of money. Great idea, you think? He thinks that because he was already popular, he thought, okay, I'll do that, I'll get myself a bit of money. And he writes the symphony, and he hires a hall, hires the players, and then comes the day of the concert. And it's a super sunny day in Vienna, and no one comes to the concert because it's a nice day to be in the park, to play. Who wants to be in a concert when it's nice outside? And not only doesn't he make money, but he loses money because he's got to pay the orchestra. And so there were lots of these stories. If you think about Bach, the Brandenburg concertos, that he wrote them because he thought it would help him to send him to that prince, which I can't remember the name. And so he wrote these 6 things that are amongst the most beautiful things that any human being has ever done, sent them to the prince, never got an answer, it was never played in his lifetime, it was just a miracle that they were not destroyed. I think that you shouldn't do things in life that you do just for money, if you think that they are wrong. And you shouldn't not do things that you really want to do if they are not paid. So, for example, I would never write a music that I thought was bad taste, even if you gave me 1 million. Even when I was in my early 20s, I was poor, and you can really say I was a student. London was very expensive, and I got an offer to write music for something in TV, and I was happy theoretically, and I asked, could I write the music that I want? My music with my style, and they said, no, of course, you've got a big audience, you are great, you can easily write a music that sounds like that. I was offered something like £20,000, and I said, no, I can't do that. And he couldn't understand it, that I wouldn't do it. But it's not because I'm a hero, or because I think it would have cost me more to do something that I thought was dirty. The festival here is pro bono, and I think it's fantastic, it's great. We do it because of the music. I imagine the festival do it pro bono, not because they think it's bad to pay musicians. Nobody would do that in that sense. But it's because you wouldn't not do something that is beautiful if what stops you is that you don't have enough money or something like that, and that is good. The advantage is also of the pro bono in that sense that you don't depend on money, so then you don't have this problem of, do I play this piece because I will get sponsored by somebody or something like that? You don't have that. When I moved to London when I was in my 20s, I thought it was very, very, very strongly different from where I lived in France. In France, people, even when they were 18 at the Paris Conservatoire, if you try to do a concert, they would say, how much are we paid? How long are the rehearsals? And you would think, oh my God, you are 18 or 19. Sort of, you don't. What is it? In London, I arrived. I organized a huge concert, and we all did it for free. And it was not. We organized an orchestra. We were maybe 40, 50 people. We all worked for free, and we had fun. From an early age, when I read Plato, I loved it. And I think, like Socrates, if I'm right to remember, that the only way to have a happy life is to live a just life.